Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Terry Hopton. She is the writer, producer, and founder of Dead Serious About Life. You've been doing this for a number of years now. Tell me about the results you've been experiencing.
Well, this is our 29th performance year of the show. And I always say I'm going to write a book someday about all the things. But we've probably, over that time frame, have counseled over 300,000 kids.
Oh, my.
The number of emails that I get from students, I had one girl said, I had 24 suicide notes written and hidden in my bedroom. I saw your show tonight, and I just want you to know I came home and burned all my suicide notes.
Oh, my goodness.
We were at a show in northern Kentucky, and a young lady walked out of the auditorium, and she pulled a loaded gun out of her purse, laid it on the table in front of one of our parents, and said, "I won't be needing this anymore. Thank you," and walked out of the auditorium. Just the kids that have even gotten involved with us as a result of seeing the show, who at some point in their life were struggling and saw the production and said, "I want to be a part of that. I want to change other kids' lives." Countless stories, kids that have been sexually molested, that we didn't even let go home after the show, but called Children's Services. And, I just could go on and on. Girls that are pregnant that don't know how to tell their mom that, we at least instill in them some confidence to be able to get help and plug them into counseling and pregnancy help centers and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
tell me about the actors.
Well, the kids that are involved this year come from 22 different high schools in the Cincinnati area, and they come from 23 different churches in the area. And so they audition to be a part of the group, and then they travel with us. Once they make the group, they travel with us for a year. We're gone about every other weekend doing the production in some city, and then after their year, if they want to re-audition, they can do that, but they do have to re-audition for the next year's cast.
That is quite a commitment for a high school kid.
Yep.
They must feel very strongly about this to commit to something like that.
Most of the kids, when you talk to them, they'll, when people say, "Well, why are you doing this instead of the dramas at your high school?" They'll tell you the eternal value and knowing that you're having a direct hand in changing somebody's life. So there's not another feeling like it.
Do they get to see it? They're going from school to school. Do they get to experience what the response is? Do they know the stories?
I mean, they sit on the edge of the stage when we ask the students, if you want to get help, come forward. And so they see, the kids that come forward. Some shows there's a ton of kids and some that's a handful, but they get to see that result especially.
Has the script changed much over the years?
Yeah, every year we sit down with our students and we let them actually rip it apart and make changes and update it. And if there's a particular issue that we feel like we need to be dealing with, we'll write that issue into the production. Probably about 15 years ago, cutting became a pretty big deal. And so we wrote that issue into the play. They have a hand in, what the characters say and how they talk, and in the issues that we address. The drug of choice now at a high school party is heroin.
Oh, my goodness.
And so that's changed over the course of the years.
Wow.
But you can get a hit of heroin for under $10 now.
Once.
So, that's the easiest drug for them to get a hold of, even probably more so than pot or marijuana.
And then prescription drugs, very innocently, people can get addicted as well.
Exactly.
So was there anything that got dropped as an issue, or does the play just keep getting longer and longer and longer?
Oh, no. We always drop things, or we'll change characters. Like we had a character several years ago that was more of a gangster-type character, and the kids just felt like he was dated, and so we wrote him out and, added a particular issue per se. So, yeah, we make sure there's a balance.
Let's talk about the bullying issue. The
Yes.
girl that's invited to the party as a joke. I think of the movie Carrie, that
exactly.
where something would be so cruel. The response of that, because there seems to be more and more bullying because of the internet and cyberbullying and so forth. Do you address that?
Yes. It's addressed through this whole character. And most of the kids that we talk to in the listening room, or even my students on stage, will tell you at some point in their life they were bullied. So I think it's something that everybody identifies with. It's just how you deal with it and how you process through it. One of my students in the group, last year, he was being bullied. He was a freshman at his high school, and he was being bullied. And his parents came to me, and we sat down and said, okay, let's come up with a plan. And so I got several of the other boys around to, kind of figure out a plan and what can we do to help him. And the girls in my ministry came to me and said, well, we want to help. What can we do? And I said, well, I don't really know. And they came up with the idea. They said, well, what if five of us girls asked him to go to the homecoming dance? And 5 girls walked in with him to his homecoming dance at his school.
Oh.
And that's what they did. And as soon as that dance was over, the bullying stopped at his school.
Yeah.
Because they realized that he was valued by other people.
Mm-hmm.
All he had to do was walk into that dance with, 5 good-looking girls on his arm, and it was like, what in the world, So just cool things like that we've seen. But in the show itself, the character of Emily goes on to do incredible things in life. And so it kind of shows, in the second act of the show, she goes off and, just tells everybody what she's feeling and what she's thinking and finally speaks up for herself. And it just speaks volumes to people and gives them courage.
Do we find out what happens to each of these students later? It doesn't just end at the party, then?
Yeah, what we do is we do a 5-year prediction type deal where we actually show what happens to the characters 5 years later. And so they actually get to see, and some are, they're pretty depressing things that happen as a result of life choices that they've made. Some go on and do incredible things. When we first wrote the show, I wanted everybody to live happily ever after. But the Christian psychologist that read through the script said you can't do that. That's not reality. Mm-hmm. Everybody cannot live happily ever after. And so that's what we've made it, is we've made it real life. And so they get to actually see what happens to these characters.
That actions have consequences.
Yep.
The whole thing seems a little depressing, Terry. Are there some moments of humor? Do you have...
Oh, there's a ton of humor. Ton of great stuff, especially in Act 1. At the party, there's a character named Sean, and he's pretty much there for comic relief. He is the pot addict, and it's humorous and funny. And, I have had lots of counselors see the show, and they said it is so pro-life. It is so pro-life that you can't walk out of that show and not take a second look at your life. Mm-hmm. So you don't walk out depressed. You walk out with a sense of, wow, I need to change my life, or I can make this better. I think you almost walk out empowered, to change what's going on in your world.
Mm-hmm. The teen dealing with pregnancy, is there any talk of adoption as an option?
Yes. She toys with the whole the idea of abortion. Mm-hmm. And she toys with the audition of adoption and what to do and going back and forth. Some years she gives the baby up for adoption, and other years she keeps it. This year is a year that I think she keeps the baby.
That's interesting. Now, how did you come up with that, having it have different endings?
When we showed what happens to the character 5 years later, we let the kids have a lot of input on that. And so some years we write it that, she gives the baby up. Other years she keeps it. It just really depends.
And has anyone in the play gone through any of these scenarios in real life?
Yeah, we've had lots of kids. I've had kids that have been hospitalized for suicide attempts.
Oh, my.
We have a family that travels with us that lost their 13-year-old daughter to suicide. She was being bullied at school, and she killed herself. And they got involved with us as a result of their daughter's suicide. And so they travel with us and are part of the ministry. They keep saying, we want something good to come out of our daughter's death, and this is what it's going to be. So, and I've got lots of students that have struggled with cutting and bullying and, the whole thing. They're normal teenagers.
Just really don't know what's going on. Parents would be aghast, wouldn't they?
Yeah, a lot of parents that come to the show go, wow, I had no idea. And I'm like, this is what your kids are dealing with.
Does this start home conversations at home?
Oh, yeah.
More and more?
Lots. People are like, oh, my gosh, I had a conversation with my child that I've never had before, So we see a lot of that from parents that come to the show as well.
Well, tell us all the details. So we want to be able to get, is it a ticket purchasing thing, or do you just come?
Yes, you can get tickets in advance for $6, and they're sold in advance through our website, which is www.mish-inc.com. You can order your tickets that way, and they're sold in advance up until a Thursday evening at 5 p.m. before the show. Or you can get them for $7 at the door.
And again, this is at Louisville Middle School?
Yes, in Louisville, Ohio.
And remind us the ages that you recommend it for?
6th through 12th grade students. And the production is 3 hours in length, and that includes an intermission in the middle.
And the time that it's being performed?
On Saturday, February the 18th, it's at 6 o'clock p.m., and Sunday, February 19th, it's at 3 o'clock p.m.
And you recommend, Terry, that this would be something that families would see together? Or is it hard?
We really prefer, if the parents are going to come on the same night as the students, to don't sit in the same part of the auditorium.
That's interesting. Why?
Because it will hinder the kids from making decisions. As far as if they want to go back and talk to somebody in the listening room, they might not do it if mom is sitting right next to them. And so we hear that from a ton of students. Sometimes we encourage parents to come on Saturday and then their kids come on Sunday or what have you. But it just gives kids a little more freedom to be more real. I had a student that said, I wanted to go back in the listening room, but I couldn't because my mom was sitting right next to me. And he said, I wanted to cry during the production, but I just couldn't in front of my parents.
Wow.
But what he did, he said afterwards, he sought out his youth minister from his church and said, I need help. And that's when, he received the help he needed.
Well, it's an amazing work that you're doing. And again, this is Terry Hopton, dead serious about life. How many years again, Terry, real quickly?
This is our 29th performance year.
And you have seen, you said 300,000 children be counseled through it?
Yeah, exactly.
Incredible. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Again, give us real quickly the dates one more time.
February 18th at 6 o'clock p.m. and February 19th, which is a Sunday, at 3 o'clock p.m. at Louisville Middle School.
Okay, and call where for tickets?
They can call 1-800-459-7268, which is our office.
Awesome. Terry Hopton, thank you so much for what you're doing in our community.
Thank you for allowing us to share with you today.